Bob Gunzel.
Here.
Roger Hewitt.
Here.
Jill Lowenstein. Here. Al McWilliams.
Here.
John Moa.
Here.
Rishi Narayan. Keith Orr.
Here.
Steve Powers.
Here.
Sandy Smith.
Here.
John Split.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We now go into audience participation. I have nobody that has signed up today. I'll go into reports from city boards and commissions. Ray Detter, Downtown Area Citizens Advisory Council. Ray, you've got 4 minutes. It's the last time I get a chance to say that.
It hasn't changed, has it? Last night's CAC meeting, we welcomed 2 potential new members to the CAC, Felicia Flores and also John Giesler, both of whom live and work in the downtown area. And I want to say again, and use this mic in order to do that if anyone knows of someone who lives in the DDA area, and has an interest in being involved in helping to shape developments in the downtown, please let them know that we would welcome them as new members. We have 3 more memberships open at this particular time. We meet the first Tuesday of every month except August, 7 o'clock p.m. in the City Council room in City Hall unless otherwise posted. Last night we took time to fill out the feedback questionnaire for the DDA and City's Ann Arbor Downtown Street Plan. I just apologize for not bringing those in. We spent some time looking over those and consider we wish that particular project success. And afterward, those present reviewed the Ann Arbor news reports of all the new developments in process or approved in the downtown, the city of Washtenaw and Washtenaw County also. It's pretty impressive. I mean, that series of articles really told an awful lot about the nature of this area and what's happening. And by next fall, there will be hundreds of new residential housing units in downtown Ann Arbor, all coming to market at the same time in 2015. Amazingly, our group is in full support of most of them. Those are building projects that avoid having a negative impact upon their residential, historic, and commercial neighbors. Not so surprisingly, most of that development is being undertaken by local rather than out-of-town developers. And where possible, we intend to give our full support to all of those projects committed to meeting our community expectations, as we did this month with the 2 projects that are being developed by the First Martin Corporation. Most of last night's CAC meeting was devoted to a discussion of the future of what we continue to call the library lot, surface parking lot above the library lane underground parking structure. With the Y lot now sold, the City Council apparently has provided direction to the City Administrator to hire a broker to list the library lot across 5th Avenue while reserving a portion of the property for a future downtown park. Members of the CAC continue to strongly support the development of a significantly sized public plaza, and we do prefer to call it a plaza on the 5th Avenue side of the library lot. The lot site, as well as the use of Library Lane, we would say all the way to the entry to the underground parking garage itself. We also continue to support pedestrian walkways to Liberty Plaza Park and believe that all future development decisions on the site must take into consideration the needs of the district library and possible connections to the Lake Transit Center as well as nearby historic properties, districts, and businesses. We encourage very definitely the possibility of a new tax-producing private or public development on the major part of the property. A development that will work cooperatively to integrate itself with, complement, and provide eyes on the adjoining public plaza and spaces. We're pleased that the issue of moving ahead and spending money on improving the Liberty Plaza site has apparently been moved to the Parks Advisory Committee. Most of us believe that changes to Liberty Plaza should be done as part of our larger plans for development of the entire block, and that remains our position. And some of us were around, some of you were around too. It was, I think, I lose track of time, but it was a decade ago that we spent $250,000 on Liberty Plaza Park. We got $50,000 from the Parks Department, we had to work for that, and the DDA put up the rest. And we redesigned the park, and we succeeded in eliminating the dangers on Liberty Street with regard to peddlers. At that point, you couldn't even cross on that street. I mean, you would cross the street to avoid it. But at this particular point, we have got a beautiful park, and we hope to make it a part of something which is larger for the entire block.
Thank you, Ray.
Thanks.
Communications from DDA members. First off, there's a suggestion that we may cancel our committee meetings for July. Discussion on that?
We may have to have some meeting to discuss the Fourth and William parking structure design, but I don't know if that needs to be a full committee meeting.
I think the thinking has been that it can just be the subcommittee.
Okay.
Which will, of course, be posted and
Of course.
properly noticed.
Yes.
Very good. I would speak to having a partnerships meeting in July, but not August, for the sole reason to evaluate the partnerships grant. After we have done a grant, now let's look and make sure that we've got things the way that we wanted it. Our evaluation was properly done. Are there changes that we would like to make? It's just a review while it's still fresh enough. I think if we wait until August or September, we won't have the nuances fresh enough to really be able to analyze that. So I would recommend that we have a meeting Wednesday, July 9th, and then skip the August.
That fits with my schedule too, so that's fine.
What time?
Well, currently, and we have a second meeting today that will reestablish committees. Currently, that is proposed for Wednesday, July 9th at 9 a.m. That is subject to change at this moment.
Depending on the annual meeting.
Right.
Sandy, could we perhaps leave open canceling the operations committee meeting depending upon what we do at 4th and William next week? We may want to have another meeting before the end of August. Let's leave it open and.
Let's leave them both scheduled, and then they can be canceled if need be.
That sounds good.
Very good. Are there other communications from DDA members?
Yeah, I see that we don't have the streetscape plan on our agenda. If we could have that as a standing item, I think it would be useful. And I'd like to see if Amber actually would be willing to come up and give us a little update. I know that you were meeting with some of our folks this morning about it. Do you have anything you can just give us a real quick update?
Sure. Well, I can give you an update from your last report out. We did some on-the-ground outreach. We took maps to the street, got feedback from people who were using the streets in downtown, heard from over 200 people who were out on the sidewalk that day, and got a lot of good feedback, so that was a wonderful experience. And then we have also pulled in an economics team that focuses on retail and ground floor uses to make sure that the streetscape improvements benefit those active uses. And they made their visit yesterday and today, and met with a couple of you and have been walking around the district and started making some observations. So we'll hear more at our next advisory committee meeting.
Thanks, Amber.
First on the connector study, we met last week. We have set a date for our public meetings to bring everyone up to date on where we are and the conclusions or preliminary conclusions that we are pretty close to reaching. This is going to be September 17th at the public library. I think there'll be two sessions, one that I believe starts at 4 and one I think starts at 6:30 if my memory is correct, about that time. We'll probably be doing some one-on-one meetings before that, just briefing people. We are, I would say, as a committee coming together and getting pretty close to where we think we will end up on both alignment and mode, but we still need public input. But we're, after a long and pretty arduous process of trying to go through reams of data, I think we're pretty close to coming up with some recommendations, and of course dependent on what the public input is on those. There's also one other very obscure committee that I sit on that is also going to produce a final report. Everyone has probably heard about the Ann Arbor Station study for the East-West Rail. There's also a very little known study, federally funded study, on a station for the north-south rail, the one that would run from Howell to Ann Arbor, a commuter line that would have trains coming in from Howell and points north along US 23 to Ann Arbor in the morning and then going back in the evening. This service is probably a significant ways away still, but there was money for a federal study to come up with a recommendation for station locations. The consultants went through, I thought, a very rigorous process of evaluating every possible location, which stretched from the north side of town near North Main Street all the way south to close to where Fingerly Lumber is. And the final selection is on the east side of the tracks between Liberty and Washington Street. Now, this is not going to be a full-blown station. This is simply going to be a platform with canopies and a little shelter on it. There would be a ramp down to Washington Street to the north and just a sidewalk connecting to Liberty on the south. It would be built entirely within the railroad right-of-way. There would not be any taking of any public or private property other than the railroad right-of-way. And again, it is on the east side, opposite of where the city, former city maintenance yard is. We will have a presentation that I would like to show people once it's ready. Just take 5 minutes sometime during DDA meeting, so bring you up to date on how we reached that conclusion and what's being proposed for it.
Thank you. Any other communications from DDA members? Mr. Powers, anything from the city? Pages 2 through 12 will have the minutes from June of the June 2014 meeting. I assume that you've all reviewed them thoroughly. Are there any additions, corrections, deletions, movements to approve?
I'd move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. Partnerships, Economic Development, Communications Committee. We had a few things. Joan wasn't there. I don't know if you've got anything on, or whether I can turn to John to help you out.
I
You got some couple
do.
items?
I can, what I'd like to do is, first, we have a resolution on 618 South Main, which is kind of old business, and then on the other resolution on the hotel project, maybe I'll turn it over to you since you were there. So first is a resolution that we have that's on page 13. This, I'd like to move this resolution.
Supported.
So this is just an extension. We approved this brownfield grant in 2012, 618 South Main, and we have sunsetting language in our grants so that they expire, and then the work is underway. We know the winter weather caused a scheduled delay, and so evidently the committee reviewed the status of the project and recommends that we approve this grant for another year based on that delay.
Any questions on that?
I don't have a question, but I have a quick comment related to that area. If folks didn't see, I read in the paper that the Happy's Pizza site right next to it is going to be redeveloped into a multi-use building, or at least it's going to be proposed and explored. So I think that's a great sign. Part of what we were hoping is that whole area would start to rise, and maybe it was sort of a fortuitous happenstance for, in some ways,
In that case, rise from its ashes, so to speak.
Yeah. My understanding is the family that owns the property is sort of excited to move forward with it. So yeah, it's a piece of good news related to that development.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
So next is the partnership grant for 116 to 120 West Huron. So I'll turn that over to you, Sandy.
And I'm going to defer to John.
All right. So I'd like to Move resolution, provide a DDA partnerships grant for the project at 116-120 West Huron Street. Sorry, almost sent it to the wrong place.
I'm sure they did.
Hey, that's my address.
Supported?
You know, as everyone knows, we've been looking at this partnerships grant program for the few months. These folks have been very patient during that time. They're anxious to go. As a matter of fact, they've started their project, and it worked out well because we were able to use their project as sort of a good test grounds for what makes sense for the partnerships program. So as it relates to that, the proposal before you describes the fact that over a period of 10 years, the 25% of TIF would be captured and would be the basis for this grant. To the amount of total grant amount is $390,000. And one of the things that I think is very important about what was discussed was were really two factors. One was, is this an area that we would like to promote change and development and so forth? And it is an area of town that, you know, has been maybe lacking a little bit in some ways. So we felt it met that criteria. And the second part is that will the grant go towards benefits to the community? In other words, opportunities for other areas to be developed, opportunities for the street itself to be improved and so forth. And we felt it met that criteria. You'll see in your package under public benefit elements, it includes a new 12-inch water main on Ashley Street, which is the lion's share of the total amount, which doesn't sound very sexy, but it's certainly something that allows for future development in that block as time goes on. Along those lines, included in this are some sidewalk enhancements for Ashley Street. And another thing that I think is a new thing we're trying is a right-of-way landscape maintenance agreement over a period of 20 years. And that is with the idea that you know, we all know that trees in Ann Arbor suffer out on the streets, and they don't always get cared for, and they die, and not very sightly. So this is an opportunity where the owners of the building will be maintaining and taking care of those trees and landscape features over the next 20 years. And I'll be very interested to see, you know, how this works, and hopefully it'll be a nice precedent for other projects in the future. So I think that sort of, to me, wraps up most of it. Does anyone else have anything you want to add to discarding?
They've got some boards primed and ready to go.
Oh,
If you want to take a moment at the podium and just show us what you've
Thank you
got.
for having us. Again, I'm Mike Martin, First Martin. This is Darren McKinnon, and appreciate all of your work with us and working through your new program. We're excited about the development and appreciate the partnership you guys are showing us in extending this, potentially extending this TIF grant. So what we wanted to show graphically in these two boards are kind of a minimum. Oh, grab that.
This is what's in your packet. This is just a larger format version of it.
So again, I think that what was expressed to us was, you know, we should be applying for a grant based on the public benefit that our project would bring beyond kind of our property line. And so John just made mention of the 12-inch water main and the associated street and sewer work, the improvements to the alley, and then, I should actually be referring to this one, this public alley, and then kind of the right-of-way landscaping. And so what we thought would be good graphically is to show you kind of the minimum level of development that it could occur associated with our hotel, which is what Darren's holding. We could have gone potentially out to Huron Street to get our water and our sanitary connections and really done pretty minimal amounts of right-of-way improvements along Ashley and really not touch this public alley. And then kind of this is what we are planning to do and have already, you know, a lot of this work is going to be done here in the next couple of weeks. Which shows you kind of the overlay of the additional public benefit that we think our project under this scheme is bringing relative to the base scheme we could have done. So that's kind of the two boards. When we met with partnerships committees, they thought that it was important to kind of show graphically kind of the change that we hope to bring to the block, not only with the development, but then the physical change of the pedestrian and the
rest of the communities who've experienced along Ashley and along Huron Street. So, we're excited. Again, appreciate the time and the consideration. And, just any other questions you have, happy to answer.
Because I wasn't at the partnerships committee, I'm reviewing this. Certainly the 12-inch water main and sidewalk improvements enhancements certainly clearly fall in the public benefit. I'd just like to raise a cautionary note about the right-of-way landscape commitment. In this case, I have absolutely no concern about spending this money because First Martin has a superb reputation for maintaining their properties, and I'm sure they will do it on this project. They have it in every building they've owned. But I just think going forward, unless we have a way to monitor and some sort of enforcement, so if other developers do not follow through on this commitment, we have some way of recovering our money or some sort of a way to both see if they are doing it properly and recover our money if they're not. Again,
so it's our understanding that there's going to be a separate agreement that you're going to give to us that covers those details and would hopefully allay those concerns.
Sure.
Of
and again, I don't have any concern that First Martin is going to do exactly what you
appreciate that, you raise a valid point.
I just don't know if there are other developers around who will be as conscientious.
Again, we're expecting to have a physical document that we're going to execute with the DDA that speaks to the level of maintenance and those sorts of things. So hopefully that'll be something that in the future you could stand down with other developers.
Okay, great.
And I assume there'll be a remedy for default in there, seeing the money will have been paid up front.
Sure.
You would anticipate that.
I'm pleased that the Partnerships Committee is recommending this grant for our full board consideration. I think it's a great example of the DDA being part of a public-private partnership to help improve our downtown. The Partnerships Committee is, I'm assuming, satisfied that this grant meets the grant criteria that you've spent many months developing and is a solid application and one that includes uses that the DDA will be comfortable supporting for other projects, particularly the water main, new water main, upsizing water mains.
I happen to have copies of the partnership grant here. If anybody wanted to refresh, it's an excellent question, refresh their memories as to how it does fit in. And also in having the subsequent meeting in July, making sure that it is something that we're comfortable after the fact. We're not going to go back and change certainly the grant in any way, shape, or form, but the actual guidelines. Does it speak to the discussions we had while we were addressing this investment?
Thank you.
Yeah, I've been out of town, so I didn't participate in the discussions, but I think it was kind of a great first step in terms of using this policy, and I appreciate the partnership aspect of this, the fact that we're able to work with the private sector, and especially in that side of town, and what this will mean, I think, in terms of benefiting not only that area, but the entire downtown. So I think it's worked really well done. And I appreciate the evaluation component for next week.
Well, I have been in town, so I was at all the discussions and appreciate a lot of the discussions we had and the sort of give and take to make sure we got to the parts of the project that did fit it. I'm thrilled that we are, since we have our mission up on the board always, that we're returning to doing partnership grants of this sort and have good guidelines for doing it, because this is what our mission's about, and most specifically about infrastructure, which is something we're able to take on in ways that perhaps other people can't. And really happy to see that we're opening, that we're improving the water infrastructure for that part of town. And of course, as Bob said, the activation of the sidewalk may not be the basis for the grant, but it's certainly an added plus. So I fully support this.
Steve, to go to your question, the under eligible improvements, it met all the criteria for those eligible improvements, including the maintenance aspect, which is something that's, as of right now, in our policy. But Roger's words being wise, that as we move forward, it'll work for other folks. The other thing that I think was pretty notable about this project was that we had developed a dozen what we describe as favorable project elements, things that we're looking for that the project is bringing to the community. And I was pretty impressed that out of those 12, I think something like 8 of them were met by this particular project, which seemed quite extraordinary. So I think in all the ways, at least as we've developed the policy so far, this is a very nice example of it.
And to follow up with that, 8 out of 12, 2 out of the 12 that we said didn't fall into that category. One was adds to downtown's residential density, which could go either way. This is a longer term stay, so that was not actually included on that 8 bullet point. As well as strengthens Ann Arbor's national visibility. We had quite a bit of discussion about whether a national chain does that, or is this supposed to be a boutique, something that, or a niche market, that's something that raises our profile naturally, organically. So those 2 bullet points were not within that 8. So some of us had argued that it was closer to 10.
Yeah, maybe half a point.
Right. So you got to 9.
We'll call it
Well, I mean, I guess the other corollary to that is that we've heard from a lot of people here locally that are excited about it. So raising the visibility within your own community isn't on your list, but we've heard from a lot of people that they're excited about it. So it might not be national, but certainly locally, people are excited about having another option for their own companies or for other people coming to town. So quarter point on that one.
Any further questions, concerns? Ready to vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain. Very good.
Thank you very much. Have a great 4th of July.
Thank you.
I think it's a lot of heavy lifting by the committee to do some pretty good work. So I'm pleased we're moving forward with that. All right.
So the last thing we have on partnerships would just be if Rishi could give a little report about what you reported on at the partnerships meeting.
Yeah, definitely. So we are still undergoing a lot of good data collection to determine where we want, what impact, where is our place in marketing downtown. As Keith said earlier, that's traditionally not our place. So if we're going to see where we fit, we want to make sure it's efficient, both in time, money, our energy, staff energy, etc. So we have a few irons in the fire, if you will. We have started kind of working with this company to essentially, at no cost to us, and point them in the right direction to help develop a plan to give us some macroeconomic data, startup in Ann Arbor. And we've started discussions with Republic Parking to see if there's a way we can extract information from one of the most amazing data sets that we have to our disposal, which is Republic Parking's their information systems, which are really awesome. So we're talking with Art and pitching him a lot of ideas that he's politely nodding his head at us for. So we'll narrow that down. We'll get there. So yeah, we're still doing a lot of that. We've run into a little bit of a tricky time for those of us in Ann Arbor, where July is art fair and nobody wants to talk to us right now because they're busy with their own thing. So we're navigating that right now. But hopefully in the coming months, we'll be able to come back and say this is what makes sense for us, and it may just be a matter of knowing a little bit more about our downtown and relaying that to our businesses and the community downtown to help strengthen them, or it might be partnering up with the CVB or the local neighborhood associations to do more, whether it's grants for events and so on and so forth. So we're still in that collection phase. Summer's just a little bit of a tough time with businesses.
And the CVB is going to be working with our fair to do a lot of data collection during our fair this year. So, at some point after that, we should have good data that's coming from CVB and our fair together to at least show us like kind of what the actual impact of those events are, at least as accurately as they are able to do so.
So it's a lot of data collection right now. Pretty awesome. So that's it.
So to be determined what time our meeting will be, but looks like we'll have a meeting on time.
Good. Thank you, Joan, and everybody. Next we go to operations. We would have the Hewitt Split and OR team presenting today.
Yes, I guess I'll lead off here. There is a resolution on page 20. Everyone. Resolution authorizing the establishment of a project budget of $100,000 to be used for general sidewalk repairs and tree maintenance in the DDA district in fiscal year 2015. Traditionally, the DDA has done. I would like to move this for the board. Thank you. Traditionally, the DDA has done sidewalk maintenance, things like repairing cracks, brick replacements. And I think with some examination, particularly from the city arborist, we find that many of the 1,000 or so trees downtown are not in good shape. They've not been pruned in many years. Some of them are dead and need to be replaced, as well as numerous trip hazards and other minor maintenance issues that continually come up, particularly after a hard winter. I'd say this is something we have traditionally done. We have money set aside in our budget for sidewalk work, and this would be specifically designating up to $100,000 for this minor maintenance and repair and tree maintenance and replacement. So I'd like to answer any questions you might have.
I would like to point out that we now have our list from our couple of retreats up on the wall, just to kind of remind us where, what we've been talking about as far as priorities go. And the numbers on the far left column indicated how many tables had said, yes, this is a priority. So there were 3 different tables, so it's kind of, the 3, 2, and 1 on down the side, you can see that. And then the years going forward. In this particular item, there's 3 votes for sidewalk repairs, and that was $100,000 in each of the next 3 years. So this clearly is something that lines exactly with the priorities that the whole board had chewed on over our retreats.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize, I think, especially when it comes to maintenance of sidewalk, minor sidewalk repairs and dead trees and things, the dollar value, the sooner we do it, this is something that's going to get worse if these uneven sidewalks go through another winter, they collect water, they create more damage in the future, the dead trees fall over and bust into stuff. So kind of the sooner the better on maintenance dollars, I think.
I've got a question. From a planning point of view, when working with the city and city arborist, for instance, you mentioned, are we able to consider approving this for a 3-year time period? That 3-year time period that you described? I'm just thinking that part of what's hard is, for planning purposes, whether there would be
I
any
think
advantage.
certainly the intention is that we will spend at least this much every year. Since we haven't approved a budget for fiscal year beyond this, I think it's probably premature to designate. But we always have money in for sidewalk work in virtually every year, and it certainly would be my recommendation, bringing it for any future budgets, that this fall under the sidewalk. And indeed, in the somewhat distant past, we actually had a separate fund for this, but decided it was probably a little cumbersome just from a reporting standpoint.
Because one thing I'm just thinking about as we evolve this, the idea of the streetscape plan and working more closely with the city, that 1 year windows are pretty tight, trying to have two bodies work together. So it's something for us to maybe think about moving forward. Your point's well taken about from a budget point of view.
But I think as we've discussed this in committee, it's certainly our intention. This will be money spent annually going forward. Certainly, we're not going to take care of all the tree problems in the DDA area in 1 year. There's, the maintenance has been deferred on it for years. And this will be a first step.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
Next, I have the Fourth Millennium Improvements Project update. The subcommittee met with the design team again a couple of weeks ago. Again, the part of the project that we are committed to at this point in terms of construction drawings is going forward. That is the elevators and stair tower. We are still fleshing out sort of general concepts about the rest of the potential build-out space. We know that we would like it to be as flexible as possible. Again, this is along 4th and William. The committee would like to see wheelchair access, and we are also looking at things like awnings over the space down 4th and William, sort of helping to break up vertical or the horizontal surfaces. And we are looking at some different concepts that Carl Lippenbach has come up for that. Again, still fleshing things out. We don't know where bathrooms are going yet. We aren't certain how much space we are able to build out without triggering some code issues in terms of ventilation, in terms of fire suppression. All of those things are still being explored, and we are meeting with the design team again next week, and we expect to have some answers to some of those questions. So I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody might have, or anybody else in the subcommittee might want to add something.
I guess the only other thing I would add is that as we're going through this, we'll hopefully be reaching back out to our realtor friends, as we kind of work up what the white box may be for this space, to make sure that it's viable for future lessees.
And we did have one meeting with them that was very helpful.
Yeah. Yep.
And certainly the feedback we got is that there is a big demand for incubator startup space. And their feeling was that if that's what we were aiming at, we would certainly have plenty of potential tenants.
That wraps that up.
I'll take ambassadors. I don't remember, has the board met since we had the last meeting? I don't think so. Anyway, we did have a meeting with several representatives from social service agencies, the chief of police, and Mary Kerr from the Visitors and Convention Bureau, and John Cito, to discuss how an ambassador program would be integrated into what they did. And I think we got some very valuable insight into what they do and how this could complement the system, ambassador system could complement that. We started trying to figure out exactly how to frame either an RFQ or an RFP, and I think we want to bring the two potential providers in for interviews. We've scheduled a meeting for next Wednesday, the 9th at 1 o'clock to discuss exactly what sort of format we want to use, what sort of questions, how to structure this, the interview process. And certainly everyone's welcome to attend. After we complete that, then I think we will probably be setting up interviews sometime toward the end of the summer.
One small clarification in case folks don't know the terminology. RFP is request for proposal. And RFQ is a request for qualifications. Some people might think it's quotations or something of that sort, but, and the main thing is qualifications are qualifications, what folks' experiences and background and so forth. Proposal tends to get to numbers, which means specific scope. So that's to help folks understand the difference between those two terms.
And we're going to be exploring exactly how to structure going forward on this.
Transportation updates?
Really simple one. I only have one thing, and that's just the update in a similar geographical area that we were just discussing. The Greyhound ticket office construction is underway. A lease is signed, and at this point, I believe it's July 9th even. So they'll 7th rather. Sorry, July 7th, next Monday. They'll be moving in. So a little ahead of schedule, actually. That's all I have.
Good. Parking updates?
All we have really are the permits by facility by month on page 21. Other than that, nothing new to report.
Good. As of right now, any potential meeting for Wednesday, July 30th at 11, subject to the next meetings. Good. Is there any other DDA business at this time?
Sandy? I apologize to the board. I should have brought this up under communications or earlier, but a couple of items to share in the ambassador discussion kind of woke me out of my slumber on these two. As I've reported to the board previously, council has approved additional police officers. 2 of the 3 additional positions will be community engagement officers, and they should be starting this month, by the end of this month. We had to go through some internal posting through the department, but the officers will be selected this month, and we should be seeing them downtown. And downtown will be a priority over the summer. In addition to the presence the police already have in the downtown, these will be 2 additional community engagement certified police officers. And the other point, going back to Ray's report for us, during our art fair, the city, specifically the police, fire, and emergency management, will be using Liberty Plaza as a staging area, as a cooling area for the public. So we'll be occupying the park during art fair, Liberty Plaza during art fair.
Steve, would you mind just elaborating on the nature of the community engagement process? Just
community engagement is an initiative that Chief Cito has been advocating and pursuing since he became chief. Currently, community engagement consists of 1 officer, Sergeant, I believe he is, Sergeant Hickey, Tom Hickey, some of you may know him. So these additional officers will help Tom with engaging with downtown businesses, engaging with neighborhoods, and the third main area of emphasis going forward will be with the Ann Arbor Public Schools. So downtown, neighborhoods, and Ann Arbor Public Schools. It'll be a 3-person, at this time, a 3-person unit within the police department, specifically intended to engage with the community, as opposed to or contrasted with patrol activity, calls for service. They will be charged with being more proactive in again engaging with downtown, neighborhood associations, and the Ann Arbor Public Schools.
Thank you.
And actually, if you could elaborate a little bit on the cooling center too, is that similar to in Liberty Plaza? That's similar to like if you go to an outdoor music festival and they have a tent with water.
There will be shelter. I don't know if it'll be an actual tent, but it'll have the misting and water available and shade.
Right. Cool.
I think the Red Cross will be part. Last year, Red Cross was part of it, and our community our CERT team, our community, I'm not going to remember
Emergency
the
response.
team, a group of volunteers, citizens that come in and help people who are in need of directions, who are in need of water, who are in need of a place to sit down and cool off.
Great.
Thank you.
And I apologize for not sharing that earlier.
I would entertain a motion now to go into closed session for periodic personnel evaluation.
I would move that the board go into a closed session for personnel evaluation.
Just one comment pointing out that it's not required we go into closed session unless it is a request from the person who is getting the review, and we have had that request, so we're following the procedures to go into closed session at her request.
That is correct. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? We're in closed session. We're going back into Susan's office. We're back in open session. Would somebody?
I would like to move a resolution approving a compensation change for the DDA Executive Director of the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority for fiscal year 2015.
Supported?
We have to fill in the blank.
Yeah, we need one.
I've lost mine.
Here. There it is.
We've just come out of closed session and discussed the Susan Holly's executive director's evaluation. I'll let Sandy give the qualitative part of it.
The qualitative, very briefly, is an extremely positive report. She works well with the board members, general community, entities, is a wonderful ambassador for the city, and I don't know what else I need to say about that, so I think it was all very positive.
I would like to, if you look at the resolution, our executive director's current salary is $109,119. We have to fill in the new salary. I would like to give a little bit of background on this. Susan did receive good raises the last 2 years. However, the 6 years before that, she did not take a raise at her request because of the difficult economic times the city and the state was going through. So if you look at her 8-year average raise, counting the last 2 years and the 6 years before that with no raise, it comes out to about 1.9%, which is below the rate of inflation. So she's actually been losing position versus the cost of living. She is at a level 2 in the city pay range. That pay range ranges from a low of $95,000 a year to a maximum of $157,000 a year. The midpoint being $126,000 a year. Clearly, I think, given her evaluations, she should be certainly closer to the midpoint at the very least of where she is. However, given although Ann Arbor is doing well, certainly the state is not doing as well as we'd like it to do. I'm going to suggest that we give her a 5% raise towards current salary, which would be about approximately $5,456, bringing her salary up to $114,570. This would be approximately half would be cover cost of living, and the other half of that would be try to move her up more to the center of where the pay range is for her pay level.
I would like future executive committee members to keeps that record in mind when they look at this in subsequent years, is that there's some makeup that needs to happen.
Was there any consideration to doing a longer term look at that in terms of the next 2 to 3 years?
We did not discuss, well, we didn't discuss that in detail, but I think the intention is that there will be continued raises above the cost of living to bring her up to a level that is appropriate for her responsibilities.
Maybe that's to get it to the midpoint at some point.
Yes, I think that's, the intention is to get up to the midpoint in, within a fairly short time period.
Further discussion?
I won't be supporting 5%. I understand the reasons given. I think the movement through the range, if it's being tied to Susan's performance, needs to be part of a more robust performance evaluation and performance planning process. Inflation, according to the University of Michigan economic report, has been recently 1.7 to 1.9%, and that's the projection for next year. I'm more comfortable with a 3% raise, and that's the reason why I'll be voting against the proposed resolution.
In response to that, and I appreciate your position certainly. In response to that, Susan had 8 out of the last 10 years with no raise whatsoever, and I think that there is some opportunity for some catch up. I think 5% is extremely modest.
Is there, Steve, is there kind of precedent around now at other positions in the city as far as increases or
the the management employees of the city received a 3% increase.
And prior to that, like
last year was 3% as well, and previous was a one-time adjustment, and then there were some salary freezes during the recession.
Okay. Musical entertainment.
On that note, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
It passes. That concludes, nope, it doesn't. We have audience participation. I've now lost my other agenda. There it is. Sorry. Audience participation, 4 minutes each.
Sorry, timer.
Sorry.
I'll let you know with 1 minute.
My name is Edward Gilmetti. I'm a citizen of Ann Arbor, and I have an office at All Hands Active on Liberty Street. In 2009, I came to this board with ideas and a prototype of a system to monitor and provide real-time information at a distance about the city parking system. At the time, the DDA board was not interested in supporting that, and that system, which provided access to real-time information by telephone, was taken offline. Since then, the DDA's parking system has been revamped. I've spoken with folks from the public and shown them some prototypes of some systems that I've built, and they have been receptive to some of the ideas, although they've made it clear that talking to the DDA board might be a good first step to go to, so here I am. I'm working within a system originally developed by some folks at IBM that can do things like provide real-time alerts when parking goes outside of boundaries, like parking structure full. It can drive LEDs if you wanted to put a little light somewhere on your signs that said what was full and what was not full. It can build this on my own, mostly as a demonstration to myself that I'm capable of doing it. If anyone would like to see it, I'm happy to share the results of the prototype after the meeting. I'm doing this for real for a solar energy monitoring system, so it's helpful to have test data that is genuinely changes over time and with sensors that work. And I look forward to whatever the DDA comes up with in terms of its own system. But just to let you know that the current publicly available data, as long as it stays publicly available without any onerous restrictions, it's a pretty darn good platform for building things from. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that you connect with the operations committee to go forward with that.
You can contact me.
Susan will.
Okay.
Very good. Is there other audience participation? Please, you have
Thank you,
4
Sandy.
minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy. Thank you, everybody, including me. My name is Cheng-Ming Fan, inventor of Tiny Line, president of Tiny Line World, registered in this city since 1996. Thank you so much also specifically supporting me by Steve and John spend their time listening to me and see my digital presentation. But I haven't presented to you any of the physical part. I have a small factory in China building the prototype. The prototype build is for the gears so that we can manufacture the things here with China. And I'd like to give 2 comments today. And also seeking for the opportunity, formally we can get together, build this great city, the best city of the whole world, which is so in love, but so many problems and challenges. I'm glad Al and Rich represent the new kind of like DNA to bring the new business, new economy, and new technology. I think that Sally Peterson make one very good point, but all 4 candidates are great. She pointed out the gap between, there's a gap of economic development partnership, and it does exist. I feel it. But why last time I cannot say so to continue to do more is because of until this ecosystem being continued to build, and until we solve the problem, $75,000 of this kind of like troublesome with the Amherst Park, the ecosystem is not that good for me to jump. I'm not preaching any 3 minutes elevator pitch. I'm talking about solid business. Another thing Sally said that something gap, and she pointed out that is the engine of University of Michigan is that partly true, but partly I think the engine of economic development in this city is a small business and the people, not just University of Michigan. And the most important is the ecosystem. Is another point I've said is communication. He just pointed out the same thing. The infrastructure, one is tangible, one is intangible. Intangible have 2 parts. One is communication, another thing is community. You guys did a great job of community, but it is the modern community we built. We have Facebook, Twitter, but we don't have something like a smart sign on the street. The other day we talked about this, which is the parking block. 30% of the parking space being used, while there are about 30 minutes waiting. That's it. Several minutes before the midnight in Ann Arbor. Before midnight of the New Year's Eve. That's the problem. We can continue to build more buildings, hotels, and parking lots. But if the communication and community not get into it, it's not going to work out. It's not last long. And it's not Ann Arbor who it was. It's the beautiful city. We're going to have a new concept with you guys' leadership and wisdom. So please let me know what I can be. Join your team. I'm a good comrade and a good citizen. And thank you so much. I'm looking forward to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other audience participation? Hello.
Nancy from Get Down downtown, and I want to, on behalf of Michael Ford, make sure that you all know that you are invited to the Blake Transit Center grand opening, which is Monday, July 7th, so this coming Monday at 10 o'clock. There will be tours, and there will be dignitaries aplenty and food, so please come. And that is where our offices are located on the second floor, so you can stop by. I know some of you have already done that. And also to let you know that there is a community space in that facility where meetings can take place. So if you're ever interested in maybe having a retreat there, it might be a nice location for it, just as a way to step away from your building here, maybe go and have a transit-minded meeting. So encourage you on Monday at 10 o'clock to come to the grand opening and check it out and see how another new downtown building is coming to place. They actually just poured all the concrete today, and all the buses are kind of coming into the mall right now. So it's exciting to see that all come to fruition. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Nancy.
Say, Susan, could you send out a reminder on Monday maybe to us?
Yeah.
I need reminders.
It is the connector study has been meeting in the conference room. It's quite nice.
Any other audience participation? Seeing none, I'd just like to remind everybody before we close this meeting, two things. We have a meeting, our annual meeting, following immediately after, and then shortly after that, or a few hours after that, depending on how long this one runs, we'll be having a meeting at Bill's Beer Garden to have some very serious discussions about original gravity and IBUs and things like that. 6 o'clock. And if you don't know what those things are, you need to come and hear it.
I just double check
It is. It is. It is a celebration, though, of a lot of hard work from a lot of volunteers. So we're just gonna give ourselves a break. So hope you join us. And seeing that, this meeting is motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Closed.
I don't think we can start.
Out of way, please.
Call to order.
We've called to order. It is 1:30. It is time for the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority annual meeting. Susan, please call the roll.
Cindy Clark. Russ Collins. Bob Gunzel.
Here.
Roger Hewitt.
Here.
Joan Lowenstein.
Here.
Al McWilliams.
Here.
John Moa.
Here.
Rishi Narayan.
Here.
Keith Orr.
Here.
Steve Powers.
Here.
Sandy Smith.
Here.
John Split.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We begin with new business, the nomination and election of DDA board officers for fiscal year 2015. Nominations are made from the floor. The term of office is for 1 year and begins at the close of the annual meeting at which they are elected. We begin with treasurer. Do I have a nomination for the position of treasurer?
Yes.
Roger?
After being treasurer for more years than I can count, I would like to nominate Rishi Narayan for treasurer.
I think that was support.
Can I support my own nomination?
Support. Any other nominations for treasurer? Are we voting individually? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
It was unanimous. Are there nominations for the position of secretary? Joan?
I'd like to nominate Keith Orr to remain as secretary.
Support.
Moved and supported. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Seeing none, all in favor of Keith Orr for secretary, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. For the position of vice chair,
I'd like to nominate Roger Hewitt.
Support.
moved and supported. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? None. It is unanimous. Are there nominations for the position of chair?
John Moa.
Support.
Lots of support. All in favor?
I would need it.
You will have it. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. We have our officers for fiscal year 2015. Now we get a chance to review our DDA committees. We, by resolution, may designate and appoint committees to advise the board. Committee members shall be members of the board. Any board member may serve on any committee of the board. Traditionally, we have had, or at least for the last several years, all members of the board essentially be on every committee. That way you are at least assured the notices of the meetings, the dialogues, I mean, not that you read the notices, but you get the packets, you get the information prior to it. I don't know whether that's a good practice or a bad practice, but it's time that we bring that forward. And we also define chairs, and it's I believe that get to have the opportunity to do that and appoint the chairs. But first, let's talk about the committees and the structures. So let's dissolve the DDA Partnerships Economic Development Communication Committee meeting at this time, right? We begin by dissolving, then we reconstitute. Is that necessary? Have we done
No,
that?
so it is the board's choice whether you want to keep the committee, or it may be your decision that the committee no longer serves your purposes. You may want to create a different committees. So it's your choice to dissolve or retain.
Okay, so I'm going to ignore what this says here. Let's have a conversation then regarding the DDA Partnerships Economic Development Communication Committee in its present form, and is there a reason to divine it differently?
No one can say it.
It needs a catchy name.
Do we need to first have a resolution on the floor to have a discussion?
No.
Oh, okay. Then I don't think we should dissolve it. I think that a marketing committee can continue to work as a subcommittee of the other as needed. But I don't think we need a separate committee for it. That's just my view.
I tend to agree with that. I think that while the marketing and communication into things is certainly picking up steam and getting more involved, I don't necessarily think it's mature enough yet to need its own full focus. It certainly, as a subcommittee of that, it's great. But I just don't know that we need a whole separate committee for it. But
The only counter to that, and I'm impartial, but the counter to that is that other than the name getting wieldy, the actual meeting is getting unwieldy, and so it's it's possibly one of those things where if the marketing committee picks up steam and then loses steam, you just dissolve that committee in and of itself, as opposed to having a now new committee with communication on it that no longer talks about communication or whatever it might be. So it may not be an issue to pull it out and then dissolve it on its own. And then the two meetings can be a little bit more contained, because we've been in some of those partnership meetings when you actually have nothing on the agenda, but you have a lot of people from the different partnerships. The meeting gets long, and when they don't show up, but you have a lot of people on the agenda, it gets pretty long. So anyway, that's just the devil's advocate side. Although I'll probably just it's not really a huge issue, I think.
I think if it does become unwieldy, even though we traditionally do this structuring here, there's nothing that stops us from reevaluating that if we discover that it does need to be done in the middle of the year.
Meaning keep it as, you're advocating
Keeping as it is, and if we feel like we really have to divide it for whatever reason, because I don't think there's any reason we can't do that at some later point if we feel it's necessary.
Anything from the current chair, co-chair?
I would agree with all of that. I think it's not unwieldy as it is, and members, and it's very hard when you start creating more committees to get people to find yet another chunk of time to come meet. And so it really does work better for people's schedules to consolidate as much as possible.
Is there a solution, and it's just tossing it out, as far as separating it, but a little bit more, but keeping it sort of attached to the other meetings? So say, if the Partnerships, Economic Development, and Communication Committee meets on Wednesdays at noon, then, marketing, communication stays on after, comes early, whatever it is, so that it's attached but separate enough so that it has its own agenda and has its own kind of allotted time, if you will.
Yeah, and I think you can do scheduled subcommittees however you want.
Right.
So I don't see any reason why that couldn't happen on even a regular basis if you feel like that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I guess the difference is currently when we do subcommittee stuff, it's basically just kind of more haphazard. It's because it's only a couple of people, and we just say, hey, when can you meet? Is there a way to have, these really help me when I get a staff person to write up because of what we've been talking about. Show up at this time and talk about this stuff is really helpful for actually getting things done, as opposed to us just talking and having ideas.
The other point as to why it's a good discussion, at least, and not just like a lay down, let's move on, is because in a future state where we possibly have someone that's a staff member who's focused on marketing and communications, this is a fantasy land, obviously, but in this state, they may this area might become more fleshed out very quickly. So just another thing that's out there. I know a lot of us have talked about that possibly being another staff member in the future. So
could I recommend that we perhaps think about aligning this in the same way that operations currently does over lunch time, and having partnerships begin at 11 to 12:30, and then marketing at 12:30 if need be. You meet according to need. Those that are interested can stay.
Or what's for lunch.
Or whatever's for lunch. So you may end up getting a larger group of people participating by the nature of that people will still be in the room.
Yep.
And on the other hand, the people who come to partnerships just really as representatives of their organization and aren't necessarily interested in the marketing for the DDA can peel off at that time.
And maybe we get better attendance from partnerships because then now they don't have to listen to all this other stuff.
A couple of things along those lines. I know for me, doing it over lunch helps a lot in my schedule. So my preference would be both committee meetings be scheduled over lunch. The other piece is that I'd like to really encourage folks to try to get to committee meetings on time. Unfortunately, when we're really waiting 10, 50 minutes to get a quorum of people, it just uses a lot of time. And if we were able to do that, we might be able to do it in an hour and a half, an 11 to 12:30 time frame. So there's a couple thoughts.
And I would suggest to the chair or our executive director remind the partnership members, the other jurisdictions, the purpose of the partnerships committee and now the change in how the meetings will be structured. So their expectations are in line with the DDA board's expectations for that committee.
So I'm hearing some consensus to break off the marketing committee, given those terms, and as maybe not as frequent meetings, but as needed, following a partnerships committee in due time. Given that, I would ask that Al McWilliams be the chair of the new marketing committee. And do I have board members that are interested in being named on that committee? If so, raise your hand. Al, you gotta raise your hand. Very good. So a committee of 3 to begin.
So are you going to vote to dissolve partnerships, economic development, communication, and then vote to create
exactly where I was
Is that where you're
headed.
heading?
So, so I would entertain a motion to resolve the current committee of the DDA Partnership Economic Development and Communication Committee. You gotta move it.
Oh. Move it. Move it.
Support?
Support. Very good. Do we need to address times with that? It's not, that's discussion?
Yeah. I'm going to stick with, I see nothing wrong with those meeting times, but I would still rather have it as a subcommittee that meets at that point. So I'm going to vote against it. I'd rather leave it as one committee.
I guess I don't necessarily see the difference at this point. Yeah. I mean, is it easier if we just call it one committee and do that split? I mean, it doesn't really matter, does it? We don't want to make Keith mad. So.
I'm not mad. I can vote against it.
I mean, if there is
I
a
lose, I'm
significant
happy.
difference that I'm missing, let me know. I just don't know. There's not.
You get an extra title.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
And I would rather have the option of if the marketing committee is discussing something I'm interested in, I'd like to have the option of sticking around and taking part in the committee meeting, and that might be an argument for not splitting.
You could always stay and stick around for the
I think
meeting.
they let you stay.
Yeah.
They've said no before.
So, we're back to square one.
So,
What's the easiest thing to do?
so I can vote, I can call a vote, and if it's not the pleasure of the board to dissolve it, then you would vote no. If
Okay.
you would like it to be changed, you would vote yes.
Okay.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, raise your hand.
I guess.
It is dissolved.
Do you like 6 on one hand or 1/2 dozen on the other? All right.
All right, so therefore we need a resolution to create a DDA marketing committee.
So moved.
And the DDA partnerships.
Or,
Yeah, because you just dissolved it.
right, it
So-
could be one or two, and you can do it 2 ways.
Then we only have to have one.
Does that matter? Can somebody give me a resolution, please? Clearly
I
stated.
resolve to create a DDA marketing committee and a DDA partnership committee.
Support? Does that include economic development?
Yes. Friendly
Yes.
amendment.
Yes.
You're making this job harder than it needs to be.
Really? I'm looking all around the rules right now.
I believe it's been moved and seconded. Further discussion?
No, please no.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous that it stays exactly the same way. On that note, I'm going to ask that Al McWilliams co-chair with Joan Lowenstein on the newly reconstituted Partnerships Economic and Marketing Committee.
Is that what we just?
No, I
Separate committees.
We just actually.
Yeah, we got 2 separate committees.
Separated them.
But yes, it's
You
pretty
got me
much
all
that.
befuddled. All right, Al, will you please chair the marketing committee?
Absolutely.
Will you co-chair the Partnerships and Economic Development Committee?
Of course.
Joan, will you take the other co-chair? of the-
I do.
I think we better call Hannah because I think we just got married.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We also have other committees.
That was the easy.
Right. We have other
Facebook
committee
message right now.
participants for the Partnership Economic Development Committee, which has included some of our partners, Kevin Klein from the City Planning Commission, Jane Love, Marty Teal from City Council, which is a City Council appointed, mayoral appointed position, City Council approved position, so that may change in November of who those people are. Charles Griffith from AATA, Jason Morgan has been joining us from Washington Community College, and I would still love, as an ongoing invitation to somebody from either the county and the library they know that they have been invited to come in and share in this, kind of the update time.
Friendly amendment, it's Ken Klein.
Of course it is.
Both good actors.
Yes.
Yes.
That's why it seemed completely normal. Yes, all right. I'm not going to botch this one up.
Spelled differently, though.
Let's have a discussion prior to dissolving or creating a finance committee and parking, transportation, construction committee. There's a lot going on there for the same reasons. It's worthy of looking let me back up. Who wants to be on the Partnership Economic Development Committee as committee members? Raise your hand.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Very good? Yep. All right. Thank you. Let's talk about, for the same reasons, is the current operations, et cetera, committee becoming too unwieldy? I'm not a frequent visitor, so I'm going to listen to what you guys think.
Well, I guess at least my feeling on this is that this is an organization that has a budget of approximately $24 million. And during the Operations Committee meetings, we certainly have a lot going on, and the financial end tends to get not probably the attention that I think the size of our budget warrants. So I think having a separate committee meeting that focuses strictly on the financial aspects of the organization would be beneficial. My hope would be that we would continue operations without the finance part and not a lengthy, just continue as the Operations Committee. It would continue to meet at 11 o'clock. We would break for lunch. When that committee is done, the Finance Committee would then meet. Anyone who was on the Operations Committee could continue to stick around for the Finance Committee, and we would focus in more detail the financial records and reports of the organization. So that's what I would envision.
Roger, say that again.
So-
When the finance meet, before or after lunch?
After lunch.
Very similar concept as
Yeah.
we've talked about for the first committee.
So
Our
operations
meeting would be on the tail and people want to
So we'd
stay.
only have to show up here once, and we can do both committees?
Correct. So we would continue to do parking, transportation, construction,
Just one.
starting at 11.
Is to eat lunch, get your stomach full, and then talk about boring numbers, because that would be
Yeah.
Could put you to sleep.
Yeah. So, when you're ready for resolution, let me know.
I was just going to say, this one I do think requires separate, not necessarily because it's unwieldy, just because it's a separate enough subject, an important enough subject, especially as our budget continues to grow, that we have a committee that's dedicated to the financial oversight. And more importantly, we continue to grow people within the board who are comfortable with that oversight. I say that since there are term limits for Roger.
Go ahead, John.
No, I was just going to ask if the chair is considering dissolving and then reconstituting, or?
Yeah, I'll try and put this all in one
Thank you.
resolution.
All right.
I would resolve that we dissolve the Operations Committee and form two new committees, one which we call the Operations Committee, and will constitute oversight of the parking system, transportation issues, and construction. And a second committee, the Finance Committee, which will oversee the financial aspects of the organization.
Support.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah. Finance Committee Chair, I would suggest that the treasurer, the new treasurer, be a chair of that, and I would appoint Rishi.
I would be glad. Can I rope Roger into co-chairing with me so I can steal all of his knowledge out of his head? Or do I not need that?
Just delete Vulcan mind meld.
Or at least make sure he's on the committee.
Roger will be on the committee.
All right, I see how it is. All right.
And are there other people that would like to join those two on the finance committee?
John Splitwood.
Wow, I thought it was going to be like marketing where no one else wanted to join that.
John, Roger, and Keith.
I was going to be 50% of two-person committee.
It's easy to reach consensus.
Yeah.
Very good. And then the ops committee. I would like to tap John Split for that.
Yes.
Very good. And committee members for the operations?
Sure, I'll already be there.
Good. I don't believe I need to make the executive committee. It's just a statement. It's just a statement that the executive committee is also a standing committee. The officers of the board, including chair, vice chair, treasurer, recording secretary, shall constitute the executive committee. The last former chair shall be a non-voting member, and the executive director shall be a non-voting ex officio member of this committee. Did you have something else you want to add?
I was just going to say, are we going to confirm here that the partnerships and marketing committees will be meeting at 11 o'clock starting next week as opposed to 9 a.m.?
I think that's fair.
We'll get out both the notice to the committee members reaffirming the purposes.
You want to come to the, are we still live?
Let's say the times again.
So we will send out a notice to the committee members both about the time change, and we'll also get out a reaffirmation of the purpose of the committee and what we are needing to do, so that all of our partners who join us at these meetings are on the same sense of alignment with you as to why we're
What's the immediate time for next Wednesday?
So it had been previously slated at 9 a.m., so we'll get out word today that it'll start at 11.
Could we also make sure, I assume you'll send those notices out to the full board, but could you also include in your text the committee members on each of those?
Yep. And the only thing that I'm going to say, just as I don't know, I don't have my calendar in front of me, we may have scheduled other things next week that might bump into this. If that's the case, then we're going to be meeting at 9 a.m. So everything I just said.
May I clarify that right now?
Yeah.
On my calendar, I have the subcommittee of the 4th and William at 11:30 and the ambassador discussion going on at 1 o'clock.
So let's stay at 9 a.m.
Let's stay at 9 a.m. and I would recommend that when we recommence in September with the newly formed, we start new schedules.
Okay. Excellent.
Does that work? Very good. I'd like everybody to make sure that they keep an eye on our list up here. And I hope it stays up there for quite a bit of time as we go forward in the committee work, that we have our plan in front of us, and that when we begin to look at a retreat for next year, longer board meeting discussions, that we keep in mind what we've been working on, and we continue to build on that.
And as part of that, if I may, Sandy, I would encourage, and I know I didn't volunteer for any committees, and if assistance is needed, I'll be glad to try to attend, but I did want to volunteer and not be able to commit to attending. I would, and I feel somewhat awkward saying this, having not volunteered for any of the committees, but I would encourage, if it's not part of the committee's regular kind of annual checkup, to make sure that the purpose of the committees is clearly understood by the members of the committee, as well as the DDA staff and the public as well. So we're aligned on the role of the committees, maintaining that positive relationship between the DDA board and the volunteers and the staff, and then certainly for those committees that involve other jurisdictions, to make sure they understand what the role is of the committee and what it isn't.
I think it's an excellent point, and I would recommend that the Each committee meeting that meets in September kick off their meeting with a reintroduction of members, a purpose, a guiding light statement.
So I really appreciate how you've put this up on the board right next to our mission. That's a powerful reminder of why we're here, what we're focusing on, and doing something similar for the committees, perhaps not as prominent as you've done for us, but something similar to help keep that alignment.
It's easy to be swayed by shiny objects.
Or loud voices.
Right, indeed. And I'd just like to say that I really appreciate everybody on the board. It's been a really rewarding experience to be chair and be as plugged into the downtown. It's a ton of fun, and I'm going to miss it. I will still obviously be on the board, but I'm going to miss kind of the roll, the gavel.
Someone has to pry that out of their hands.
And at this point, I'd like to ask for audience participation.
No.
Don't get off
There's something on the agenda.
Yes, number 3, staff thank you to the board.
Nice try.
No, this is our chance as a staff to say thank you to all of you. You are volunteers. I don't know that that's widely understood out in the community, but you're giving tirelessly to the community in your service. You have real impact. You have an opportunity here to benefit the downtown, and all of you take that responsibility seriously. And we are very grateful to you for making all that time. We're very grateful to the committees, and we're looking to the future and seeing positive things. It's also a chance to say thank you to our outgoing chair. It's a tradition. The staff worked together to come up with a small gift, a small gesture, so that you will be reminded of your time here. This year, the gift came inspired by the trip to New York this year. It was a wonderful moment for many of us to actually be in one of the most fabulous cities in the world, but also a moment to celebrate important things. So the gift from the staff is a small token of what it meant to us to sort of be there overlooking the harbor. And thought you might enjoy it because it comes from Cello Cheval, now part of the history of Ann Arbor, no longer part of the downtown streetscape, but something we're going to remember always. So a gift for our chair and our thanks.
Thank you.
You notice she kept checking to see what was in there.
Yeah.
Very cool. It's pinned on.
For those that are at the home viewing audience, what is a small pin that suggested to us the tall buildings overlooking the harbor. And so you sort of see in this piece sort of an image of what seemed like a cityscape, but in a little tiny pin.
There we go. Very cool. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
He may be the first outgoing chair to not get some sort of rock or
Who's to say this is not made out of steel from a former parking structure?
It could be.
Forged, right? Yeah. Right. Very good. Thank you. Are there any members of the audience that would like to say any words at this point? So I get to keep the gavel too?
Audience, staff, and one reporter.
Move to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Or
All in favor?